Okay, good morning, everyone. Good to have everybody here. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up or a yes. There'll be several people signing in and coming in as we get going here. So good to have you. All right, good deal. I'm videoing this, and so I'll send a video link out to everyone after this is over. Well, good morning. Let's get started. I got a video for you, so you'll get the video, and I've got a PDF for you that you'll get too. All right, so today we're going to be talking about starting your own speaking, training, or consulting business. And so over the years, one of the things that I've done is that I've coached people for a lot of years in being able to do this. And it's very important as we start talking about this. People have thought about doing this, and people have talked about doing this a lot of times. And this is our 27th year. We started our company with $50. So I just it's kind of fascinating that we have done this for this length of time. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through some suggestions. You can do anything you want to, obviously. It's going to be your company if you decide to do this. And so I'll walk you through some things. My philosophy in this is to try to do it the safe way, to try to do it to where you protect yourself and your investment as much as possible. So let me give you some things that I have learned. There's a lot of people out here who's going to try to sell you pie in the sky, who's going to try to tell you how you can make $1 million if you'll just hire them to do it and pay them, $10,000 they'll do it for you. And let me just tell you that they will line up every day and take your $10,000 day after day after day, and the person who's going to make the money there is going to be them. I'm going to give you an approach that you're doing it, and my idea is going to be a little different because you can be the greatest speaker in the world, but you're going to need to be the best marketer for you. Somebody else marketing you is not going to be your best approach. Needs to be you 99% of the time. Now, I'm going to talk about how to hire other people to do certain things, but you're your best marketer. And so you're going to notice that I'm going to come back to you writing your own stuff. I'm going to talk about how to do it on a shoestring, even when you don't have a lot of money, because most people, when you're starting off. So I'm going to go at it from the aspect of how do you go from working for somebody else to working for yourself full time. So I'm going to go at it from the approach that Wanda and I did when we started the company 27 years ago, to protect yourself, protect your own investment. That's probably the way that you're going to try to do it yourself if you're going to do it long term. Most people who start off in business 95% of the people who start off in business will be working for somebody else before the year is out, because they'll blow all their money on somebody who takes all their money, convincing them to give them their $10,000. Because they're going to do it for them, and you'll be working for somebody else before the year is out. So I'm going to show you how not to do that, how to do it so you're still in business. So you can do anything you want to do and go in any other direction, but this is going to be kind of a safe mode for starting your business. Okay. All right, so here's an evolution of the company. This is really what Wanda and I did. We did not have a model to use other than what we thought made sense to us, to where we did not give somebody else all of our money. And we wanted to be in as much control as possible. And that seemed to be what made the most sense to us. Every kind of salesperson out here is going to disagree with us, but understand what their motive is. Their motive is to get you to give them your money so that they can, quote, get you going. But understand, they're a salesperson. They're taking your money so that they can make a living. What our goal is so that you can make a living, we can make a living, because that's your company and that's going to be like your baby. So you're going to want to watch this. Okay, so let's look at the top. You have a dream. You have a dream for some kind of company. So obviously, we've gone at it from the aspect of a speaking, training, consulting company. So we're looking at it from something like that. You're going to have some type of creation or structure of that company. Now, ours has evolved, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but we're going to talk about the simplest form all the way up to what kind of complexity, how complex you want that company to come. You're going to launch that company probably part-time in the beginning, and we'll talk about that, so that you can make money and still survive. And then eventually you'll work for yourself probably full-time at some point in time. Then we'll talk about growth, contractors, to where you don't have a lot of full-time employees, to where all your money's going to them. And then you'll probably work for yourself full-time at some point in time, to where you're not working for somebody else. And then you'll reinvent yourself over time, because in 27 years, we're in our 27th year, we've reinvented ourselves several times. I mean, when we started off, it was basically motivation and, and keynoting and doing a lot of stuff like that. And either the market changes, which is okay, or you start realizing some of that is not really what you want to do, or you don't like it as much, and that's okay too. And then you'll have new markets, because there's new hot things that come out, or you find out competition is so great that you can't compete or don't want to compete, and that's okay too. So I thought, when I built this cycle earlier this month and looking at this, I thought, you know what, this really is the evolution of the company for us. And this was for us, our company, that this is a 27-year evolution of what we did as a company. And so when we went this full circle, this is what it is. And you know what, the company is still evolving. And I'm 63, so I mean, I'll kind of try to keep it real. I'm 63 and I'm not ready to retire, and we've talked about it. I don't want to work like we've worked, but I'm not ready to retire. I want to continue. I still have a passion. I still want to do things. As long as I feel like I'm contributing and helping companies or helping people, I still want to do some stuff, but I don't want to have to work like what I've been working. And so anyway, I say all that to say that this is kind of the evolution of what we've done. Okay, so controlling factors before marketing. All right, there must be a buyer. Here's some things when we talk about, we've got all this passion for starting a company. Your company is nothing more than a business. So let's just think of a strip mall out here, a building. You've just got a building, you've just got a spot out here. Even though your company, if you start a speaking, training, or consulting company, it's probably going to be in your home, your basement, or a bedroom, or a closet someplace. The point is that that's your business, okay? So even though it's half of a bathroom, okay? So let's just kind of keep it real, okay? It's half of a closet or half of a bathroom. That's your business. And so you have to think of it like a business. But before you get all passionate about the excitement of your business over here, let's keep it real and bring it back to this slide right here. Number one, there has to be a buyer for that product or service that's going to be your business. So as much as you love, let's say you love speaking and training about birds, who's going to buy the product of speaking and training about birds? You have a passion of speaking about crows, but does anybody in the world going to pay you to speak about crows? And I know that's a stupid example, but I'm trying to keep it real too, because we can have a passion about something, but will somebody pay you to speak about that topic? You will find people who love speaking about one of the most boring, stupid topics in the world, and nobody's going to pay you. Or you'll find one group that will pay you. You've got to talk about a topic or consult about a topic that you're going to be able to make a living out of. And you think, well, okay, I want the biggest topic. Okay, think it through now. How many competitors do you have? In the early years, it was all motivation, but you had 40,000 people training on motivation. And so then you have a lot of problems because you had too many people. So you've got a balancing act there. There must be perceived value from the product or service that you're getting ready to provide. So once again, you're going back to how much value or service is the topic that we're going to be talking about. So in other words, if we're talking about this product or service, is it really going to make an impact on their life, their employment, their education? Is it going to change their company? Is it going to bring value to their organization? Is it going to bring value to their lives? There must be knowledge. Knowledge the product or service is available. So in other words, we can be the greatest expert in the world, but how am I going to get knowledge to these people that there is somebody out here who's an expert about this, so that they can buy my product and service? And really the key is I've got to be able to get it out there cheap enough so that after I pay to be able to advertise and they buy my product and service, I can still make a profit. See, there's a lot of places out here I can advertise. I can put billboards up all over the country. But then when they buy my product and service, I can't afford to then go in and do anything because it costs me a fortune to then advertise across the country to let them know about my product and service. So I've got to be able to get it out there and get it out there cheap enough so that everybody knows about it, or certain groups know about my product and service. But then I still got to be able to make a return on investment. So you're going to find that struggle. And then last, there must be realistic terms for both parties. I've got to be able to be competitive enough to be able to, based on what I charge. At the same time, I've got to be able to have marketing money to be able to market to the people. This slide might be one of the most important slides that you're going to find yourself battling the entire time, because you've got to be able to market. And yet everything in our head tells us to market some other way. And of course, people today are thinking, well, if I can just get on Facebook, Facebook's a wonderful tool. Electronic marketing is a wonderful tool, but it's not going to be everything for every product and service. It is one tool. It's like a hammer, but you can't use a hammer to build your entire house. You're going to have to use different types of marketing tools to be able to help you do stuff. And Facebook is still going to cost you money in some cases. And so when we close out later today, one of the last things I'm going to show you is what happens when you only have $100. How can you market with $100? So I'm going to show you $100 campaign when that's all you have is a roll of stamps of $100. And so I'm going to show you a $100 campaign before you get off of here today, just to show you what to do. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next piece. All right, so what will be the organization's name? So you've decided that you want to have a training, seminar, or consulting company. So what are you going to name it? Now, a lot of times people have all these razzle-dazzle names. That's good. You're excited about a name. The name of the organization is going to be everything. You're not wanting to really have to change this thing down the road. And so this is how it's going to be known from this point forward, and it will be the establishment for the future. And so a lot of times we get real creative, like a Google or a Facebook. And so these things have been explosive. But at the same time, the name is going to be an establishment of this organization. And so it could take people in the wrong direction, or it could be something very, very stupid that people get the wrong idea, and so they don't want to do business with you. In training and consulting in particular, a crazy name could actually help or hurt your cause. It could be something that actually in a different language means something totally different, especially if you were doing international work. In training, you must research the meaning of the name, and if others have used it, or if they use something similar, or if it's a misspelling of that word, is it going to take them to a website that's something you don't even want people to go to? For an example, I don't even remember what the name of the word was, and it doesn't matter. But I do remember one consultant, his last name, he chose to use his last name. Well, one letter off on his last name took people to a company that owned a lot of X-rated movie theaters. And so the problem is that when they would type in his name, they always misspelled it because they spelled it phonetically. Well, it took him to X-rated movie theater, and it was a company that owned all these X-rated video companies. Well, of course, he was struggling with business, but he used his last name like most consultants will do. And so in his case, had he done any research, he would have known the potential of that was going to be very high because he had a strange last name anyway. So that in his case, his last name probably would not have been his best scenario to use as a consultant because of that type of situation. So that's just something to think about. Okay. So now that you've decided on the name, okay, and you've at least checked it out to say, okay, I don't want to use my last name because here's the potential problem. Now, what kind of structure? Obviously, the easiest structure in most states is going to be a sole proprietor, at least to get your company going. It's usually the cheapest. In the state of Missouri, I don't know what it is today, but when we started the company, I started the company originally. I started it as a sole proprietor in the state of Missouri. It cost me $25. And so that meant that I owned the company. I was the founder. Now, the company has evolved, and today our company is woman-owned S Corp. But our company has evolved into several different groups and different structures. It went from a sole proprietor into a partnership, into a C Corp, into an S Corp, into a woman-owned S Corp. And so your company can evolve into the different structures depending on what you're trying to do. Now, we did not do an LLC, even though there's nothing wrong with any of the any of the structures. You can do any structure that's going to be beneficial depending on what you're doing and what type of company it is. The purpose for the structure is to protect you from the risk and from lawsuits and different things like this. And of course, you can do your research online. And of course, you can hire an attorney to take a look at this. But your sole proprietor is really your simplest to be able to get it going. And if you're doing most of the work yourself, your sole proprietor gets you into the company. And then, of course, for a few $100s a year, depending on what you're doing, you can buy errors and omissions insurance for $400 or $500 a year. And if you're the main person doing the work, your errors and omissions insurance protects you for most of what would happen to you with any type of problems that you would have with your company or with your clients. And so you would be protected for a lot of different things. And you can always check that out with a lawyer or something like that. Okay, so here's some key questions that you want to ask yourself about your company. Okay, what is the strategy of your company? So you're getting into business. Why? Just because you don't want to work for someone else? Probably not. You want to be different. So how does the beginning of your company fit into your income, short and long-term goals? Because many times when I'm talking to people, and like I said, I've talked to people over the years a lot, and I talk to students who are wanting to get into their own business. They're walking out of a $150,000 a year job, wanting to walk into their own company at $150,000 a year job. And that's not realistic in most cases. Now, maybe it is, but most of the time, people don't walk out of a $150,000 a year job into business at $150,000 a year job. And I'm just trying to keep it real. Okay. I'm just, maybe your situation is different, but most people don't. You're normally going to take a hit because you're putting all your money into a company that doesn't have a customer base. So you've got a lot of outgo and you don't normally have a lot of income. Okay. So what kind of investment are you going to make into the business? First off, there's normally going to be money and time, but then obviously there's sweat equity. So you have to kind of balance that. Now, with a training, seminar, and consulting company, money is a lot of times the least amount that you're putting into it, even though there's going to have to be some money. Time is going to be a lot, but sweat equity is going to be enormous. But it is going to take a certain amount of money, time, and sweat equity, even though money is probably the least in training, consulting, and the seminar business. I mean, you're going to have to write curriculum. Now, let me chase this rabbit. Many people in the seminar, speaking, and training business think, well, I'll just purchase the curriculum. There's a challenge here because if you purchase curriculum, that's another investment. And so that means everybody in your class, you're purchasing a book for everybody in your class. And so if you're purchasing that, that's now an outgo. And so that means that of profit, rather than making a profit of 20, you got 20 people in your class, you're now paying $35 a book. And so that $35 a book is now coming out of your profit. So that every time you purchase something, that's coming out of your pocket. And people think, well, I will pass that on to the customer. Understand that your customer is only going to pay. That's making your price go up, and you're going to be bidding on these jobs. So you've got to be able to contain that pricing. That's the reason why in most cases, for seminars, for consulting, and for training, your best scenario is the ability to be able to write curriculum. And so you've got to be able to do that to contain these pricing. Okay, so a little bit further. So how do you want to start your own business? Are you trying to do it full-time? You're trying to do it part-time? You're trying to transition? So most people will do it from a transitioning standpoint. So they'll quit their full-time job, but they've got to have income. So let's take that scenario because that seems to be the clumsiest for most people. So what type of speaking, training, or consulting business do you desire to begin? So I asked that question and here's what I normally get. Well, I can talk about anything. I can train about anything. Okay, so we'll chase that rabbit here in just a second. So what type of experience, education, or certifications do you possess and need for your business? And so people say, well, what do you suggest? Okay, that's not a position anybody else should be answering other than you, because if you don't love what you're going to be doing, if you don't have a passion for for your background, for your education, for your certifications, and you're not going to have a passion for your business. It's your business. So where are you wanting your business to go? What do you want to specialize in? What topics do you want to talk about? Because that's going to be your business that sets you apart from anybody else. What is your budget for marketing this business? Because here's the thing, you're going to have to market the business over and over again. The biggest thing that you're going to do, and that I've have to do, anybody who's in business long term, is you're marketing that business day in and day out, because you're the number one marketer of that business. Even though I have somebody who works for me full time who markets my business, I'm still marketing my business every day. I'm talking to somebody on the phone this morning, marketing my business. I'm looking at ways to expand my business. I'm looking at new courses, new certifications I can pick up to be able for us to teach new topics. What are the most prominent organizations which can give you subcontractor work until your company begins paying you? And I'll talk about, I've got a whole section that I wrote this week just for you guys that I've never put in before that's going to help you here. And that's a piece of information I want to show you, because you've got to be able to make that transition or you're not going to be able to sustain yourself. And so I'm going to show you what I did, and that will help you a little bit to have some ideas. What types of marketing are you going to use to reach your target market? I'm going to show you how to do that piece too. And that's something that you do now, but you're going to continue to do that on and on. So I wrote that this week so that this will help you as well, because you're going to continue to do the marketing, the target marketing stuff over and over and over again. So I decided I'd put some slides in here and just show you some stuff that we do, and I do it even now. So if I've got a new course or a new topic, I will do what I'm getting ready to show you here in just a few minutes over and over again to try to see whether or not I can get some leads, or whether or not it's a real topic, to see whether or not I can get some new clients in these areas. And so I'll show you what I'm looking at. Okay, so let's talk about the first decision. So let's assume that your present job where you're working right now, you believe in your dream of starting your new company right now, so you quit. And your idea is, I'm going to start my company, but obviously, you got to pay, you got to pay Sears, and you got to pay your utility bills, and your cable bills, so you got to have income. So we've got two decisions here, and so you see it here. So I've got subcontractor status, or I've got 100% subcontractor status, to where I'm working for somebody else 100% of the time. And you don't want to do that, because then you're just working for somebody else 100% of the time. So that's not going to benefit you being in business for yourself, even though a lot of times people say, well, I'm in business for myself. Really, how much business do you have? Well, I have none, because I work for Lockheed Martin 100% of the time. Lockheed Martin's a great company, but you're not in business for yourself if that's the only company you have, and you work for them 100% of the time. You're wanting to work for yourself at least a percentage of time. So in the beginning, if you quit today to start your company and I'm working for them a percentage of time, that's fine. But you've got to have a percentage that you're building your own company. So you've got 100% subcontractor. That's going to kill your dream, because all my money's coming from Lockheed Martin or Boeing. Okay. So that's fine to start a little like that, but you got to have some you're working on the side. Or I have zilcho. I have no income because I have no clients. Well, that's going to kill your dream, because you're not going to last very long unless you're independently wealthy or have a pot of money over here. And even then, it's not only going to last. So let me transition you and show you what has to happen. Okay, so let's say I quit today, didn't have any clients. So let's say I go to work for a company. I've got to be able to work someplace to where I've got some money coming in, but I also am able to get my own clients, my own pot of clients over here that's under my company. Okay. So 80%, let's say I'm working for somebody else 80% of the time. So let's say you're working for me, even though I don't have somebody working for me 100% of the time. I have contractors too, but you've got to have some contract work. So I've got contract work 80% of the time, and 20% is my work for the Mathis Group. This is exactly how I started. So I began working for a company called Career Track. Now, Career Track, the name is out there, but the company has been dissolved for the most part. They had 300 consultants, and I worked for a company called Career Track. And so that company had 300 consultants, and I was one of those. And for 3.5 years, I began, and almost all of my income for the first year was them. And so 80% idea of my money came from them. I made a great living from them. It would have been very easy to just work for them. And a lot of people, that's all they did. And so that was not my goal, because this was my goal. So 80% of my money came from them. 20% I started marketing the Mathis group. And so that first year was pretty lean for the Mathis group because nobody knew me. But by year 2, I started having money come in for the Mathis group. By year 3, I left career track, and it came, and all of my money started coming in. By year 3.5, all my money started coming in for my company. So that's what you're trying to do, because your goal long term is not to work for somebody else. So that's what you're seeing here. So 80% of the contract was from contractor work, 20% was personal. By the next step, your 60% is contract work, 40% is personal. By personal, I'm talking about your company. And then 40% is contract, 60% is personal. And then obviously your next step is all your money is personal, meaning coming from your company. That's where you're going with this thing. So you're transitioning yourself into your company. Okay. But you've got to research companies that's going to be able to let you be able to do this. So let me give you some, and this is what I put together for you. There are a lot of companies out here that's using contractors. A lot of these, you can make your $100,000, $150,000 speaking for them full time. And many people blow their dream by doing that. Fred Pryor Seminars probably pays the least of everybody out there, but it is a great training field. But you're going to live in a hotel and on a plane, and you'll speak 15 or 20 days a year if you want to. They will pay you probably $400 or $500 a day and pick up all your expenses, and you'll speak all over the country. But you're not going to grow your company in most cases if you stay with them at speaking every day for them. But to get you going, to pay your bills, Skill Path will pay you probably $450, $500 a day, in that range. Fred Pryor will probably pay you less than that. American Management will pay you probably $500 to $700 a day. National will pay you $450 to $500 a day. Management Concepts right around $600, $700 a day plus, and they'll pick up all your expenses. Blanchard is going to do something like that. Maxwell's will do something similar to that. And so these are all training companies that are using contractors. But my point in doing all of this is to show you that that's what you're looking for, is something like this. Now, you're going to research top companies. Now, this link that went back to blue here, it should be actually white. It was white in my slide. This is in the PowerPoint. And so I've got a link here, and this is the top companies, and I think it's the top companies for 2018. These are the top training companies in 2018, and so this is going to be in the PowerPoint PDF that I'm going to send back out to you as soon as we get done. So I'm going to email this out to everybody so that you'll have this link. Every one of these will use. Most of these use contractors to some extent. Some use employees, but most of these will use some type of contractor. Now, some of these will have a minimum of, they want 15 days, a month, and all this kind of stuff. On the front end, if you're starting off, the 15 days a month is not a big deal to get you going. But while you get going and start your company, use that 5 days or 6 days a month to start your company. But what you're doing is work for them short term, get your company going. But then you're constantly looking to start weaning yourself off of that company, because your goal is long term. Your goal is you're using that company short term to then wean yourself off, but you'll make decent money for them. But understand what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody. You've got to be flawless when you present. You've got to be able, when you present, you can't just get up there and just kind of teach and mumble. You've got to be flawless. You've got to be able to be high, you've got to be high power when you're presenting, because they're looking for phenomenal speakers when you do this. Now, a couple of things to warn you about, okay? There are companies out here that you'll find on the internet. Now, this link here is a reputable link that I've got for you. Do not pay to become a trainer. In other words, there are companies out here that they will charge you, they want you to become a trainer, but they're going to charge you $1,500 to become a trainer. Don't do that. There's no need for you to do that. If you have the skills to become a trainer, speaker, a seminar leader, don't pay them $1,500 for you to, quote, be a seminar leader. They're using that fee to supplement their income. Don't do that. That's a little bit of a scam. The only reason for you to pay something like that is if you are convinced that that certification or that payment is something that you're really wanting to do. So be very careful with that. There's also some companies out here that are speaker bureaus that will charge you anywhere from $500 to $2,000 to be listed on their website as a marketing ploy that other people will book off of that. If you're wanting to be on their website for $500 a year and $1,200 a year, and you think that's going to generate business for you, that's fine. But make sure that's going to generate business for you, because understand that's $500 to $1,200 a year that you're paying them to be on their website that might not generate a dime. And there's speaker bureau after speaker bureau that's going to ask you to do something like that. The only group that's really benefiting is that speaker bureau. That's passive income for that speaker bureau. So that speaker bureau is making $500,000 to $1 million a year, requiring speakers to pay $500 to $1,000 a year to be listed on their speaker bureau website so that people can book off of that. And many of these speaker bureaus will also, in addition, ask for 25 to 30% of your fee. And they will only allow you to do that if you will charge a fee of anywhere from $3,500 to $7,000 a day to go in and do a keynote. So not only are they charging you $500 to $1,000 to be on the website, or to be listed on their website per year, but they're then taking 25 to 35% per day every day you get booked. So just be real cautious. That's what I'm talking about with you. It's better for you to be in control of your marketing than for somebody else. And so a lot of times people will see that and think, hey, if I can just get booked twice a year or 7 times a year, I'm going to make my same salary. That's wrong thinking, because that's what people are hoping you will think. So be cautious with that kind of thinking. So don't pay to be in somebody's database unless you're convinced that's going to be beneficial, and don't pay to be somebody's trainer unless you're convinced that's going to be beneficial. That's how people end up working for somebody else longer than you want to. So those are just general warnings for you. Okay, all right, let's go a little further. Values for your company. Here's some values that's going to help you stay in business long term. Number one, charge fair prices for your customers. Now, you're not trying to charge the highest price, but also don't lowball yourself to where, in other words, you're just scraping by. You've got to get a price range of something that's going to be competitive in the marketplace. Don't lie, don't be deceptive. Deliver what you promise to your customer. Also, if in doubt, err on the side of the customer. And your customers will bring you back a gazillion times. The average customer, when we go in, the first time they're going to bring me back a minimum most of the time. It might take a couple of years, but they're going to bring me back a minimum of 3 times. I've been back to some of my customers over 200 times. And that's where you're going to make your money in training, consulting, and seminars. They're going to bring you back over and over again, and you're going to get rebooked without it costing you any marketing money. And that's what you want. Be good to your customers, be nice to your customers, be real. They are wonderful people. They will be wonderful to you. Create products and services to benefit the customer. Establish those win-win relationships with the customer. They're going to treat you in a wonderful way 99% of the time. Most of them are not trying to rip you off. They're not trying to do anything. They're going to be wonderful to you. Make the products or services right if something does go wrong, and things will happen. I mean, things do and can go wrong, but by and large, they're going to be wonderful to you, and they're trying desperately to work with you in a great way. Why should a company market? A lot of times people misunderstand what's happening with marketing, and that's why, and many times the person who trains or speaks doesn't want to mess with the marketing or the sales. But you've got to get that out of your head, because you're the number one salesperson for your product, for your service. And so you've got to create name recognition. You've got to increase sales revenue. You've got to dominate a product or a service. You've got to keep up with competition, because you're going to be competing against somebody. Focus on new products, new markets, new services. You've got to position yourself as an expert in the industry. All of these are reasons for marketing, and that is absolutely true. But you are the person who has to be able to market, and you'll find yourself that even when you market on a product or service, a lot of times you might not still get what you want from that product or service, and you'll kind of have to reposition yourself or reposition that product or service because it's still not doing exactly what you want. And so you'll find yourself you'll audit that that marketing audit to see if you want to adjust it a little bit. So here's what we're talking about on that audit. Conducting a marketing audit will help determine which areas of the marketing process have worked in the past. And so you'll find yourself tweaking it a little bit. A good audit will examine the target market. So maybe I've got the right product, but I'm going after the wrong people. I went in and I did things with schools for years. But what I found out is school districts did not have the kind of money. And so I was investing a lot of money to market to school districts. And finally, I stopped. I loved doing the school districts, but there was no money in it to do the school districts. And it was a very narrow amount of time to go do that. And so I finally stopped doing it. And so if I go in to do a school district now, it's almost easier and cheaper for me to go in and do a school district and do it for free and take it off my taxes because I like doing it. So that seemed to help me do it. And so I don't do a lot for school districts today because of that now. Also, the other thing that most people don't know about marketing is that when you're shopping around to purchase marketing, if I'm buying a billboard, if that will help me, or if I'm shopping for any type if I'm buying any type of media, I can get 10 to 15% in negotiating with media sales by having some type of marketing position. And so when I call in, I'm the marketing or the media purchaser for a company, and so I automatically have that media position. And so you think, well, is that being deceptive? Absolutely not. You own the company. And so, when I call in, I'm the purchaser for the Mathis Group for this media for this media campaign. And you want to make sure you state that because that's going to save you 10 to 15% most of the time. And of course, it's your company anyway. So media sales, and as an owner, you're going to get a discount of 10 to 15%, but you want to make sure you specify. If you just call in for a quote, they're going to give you a quote for the media. So if I'm doing a billboard, which could be anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 a month for a billboard, if I'm buying billboards, I'm going to get a better discount if I'm purchasing media on behalf of our company and for media purchases. So brainstorm, which media would connect with your customer base. Or if I'm buying, we've bought business journals, we've bought magazine articles, we've bought internet, we've bought email campaigns, whatever is going to connect with your group. And of course, everybody thinks it's got to be digital. Digital is just, once again, your hammer. That's just one hammer. It's not the only way. That's just one. And so you want to look at all of those. And so a lot of times people shoot themselves in the foot by just doing the one. All right, so you want to compare both old style marketing compared to new. Media sales, owners get 10 to 15%. Brainstorm with your media. We've already seen that. Let's bounce over here. Old style marketing is going to be print, image. But the problem with any type of image marketing is a lot of times image marketing is going to be long-term marketing. And it requires deep pockets a lot of times to do this. Billboard, traditional, long-term, and so it's going to take a lot of money and it's going to take long-term to do this. New marketing could be print, but the big thing I want to encourage you to look at is going to be more direct response. Now, you might not be familiar with direct response, but direct response is much more getting to the point. It's much more. It's going to be much more active in writing, and so direct response advertising is something that is going to be, you're going to ask people for, you're going to write and ask people to make a response very, very quickly. And so anything you can read and research in the area of direct response will normally speed up the narrative. If it's of what you're asking them to do. Digital, electronic is going to be there. It's going to be more short term. It's going to be much more fast paced. It's going to help move people along in what you're asking them to do. But the biggest thing that's probably has helped me more than anything else is anything you can read on direct response advertising is going to help move things along. People are, image marketing. If you see the Goodyear blimp fly over, I don't think anybody is silly enough to think, well, there's the Goodyear blimp. I think I need to buy tires. Nobody's silly enough to think that's how that works. But direct response advertising is very responsive in so many things. And if you look at what's happening on the internet right now, much of what's happening is direct response. Now, nobody is using that term, but that's what you're looking at. That's what you're wanting to read to know how to write your copy. And so that term right there would be a good term for you to hang on to. Fall in love with which connects to your group. Don't fall in love with the media. Fall in love with what connects to your group. Somebody says, "Well, I love Facebook." Why? Well, Facebook is only good if it's going to connect to the group of people that's going to be able to book you. So, which connects to the group of prospects that's going to hire you? Which is cost effective? Well, I love Facebook. Facebook's only cost effective if they're going to hire you. Which can be maintained for long-term marketing, which return on investment is best for penetration marketing, because you're going to have two sides. One is to get in front of the right people, and one is for long-term customers, and you're going to have two sides. Penetration marketing is for them to be introduced to you, and the next is going to be the long-term customers who's going to be able to hear you and bring you back in long-term, because you're not wanting a one-shot deal. You need to be able to be introduced to a group of customers, and then you're wanting that long-term sustainable income. Once they're introduced to you, you want to be able to be brought back in, not because you're twisting their arm, but because they fall in love with you and they want to bring you back in because you're of such value to them that they're bringing you back in. And so what's happening is all of a sudden something happens, and they thought, man, I want to bring you back in to help us over here. And they can help over here, and they want to bring you back in. And before you know it, they've brought you back in time and time and time again to be able to help in all these other areas. You're the thought that comes to their mind to come in and help in all these different areas. And so that's what you're wanting to have happen when it comes up to them, when a problem comes up or an issue comes up based on for consulting or a training issue. You're wanting that to happen. Okay, so here's some best ways to market. So for consultant training, here's some of the most cost-effective, best ways. All right, so you've got to find out what group. Normally you're going after a group to be able to come after. So let's take one. All right, so you need a cluster of people. So let's take an association who meets your target niche. Now, a lot of times people fight this idea of niche. All right, so you want some common characteristics of who you're going after. Somebody says, well, everybody's my niche. Well, you can't market to everybody, and you don't have the pockets for everybody. So you've got to trim it down to pick who you're going after. So you've got to make a selection because you don't have pockets for everybody. So who's going to be the first group you go after? So let's say you're taking an association who meets your target niche. All right, so go after an association and then trim that association down. And of course, you have a book called Gail's Book of Associations that you can find at a library that will help you do that. You've got mailing lists, but once again, you can only mail to a mailing list one time, and that's going to cost you, but you've got mailing lists. And so the reason why you'll go after associations or mailing lists or something like this is that you can decide how big that's going to be, and you can control it, and you can control it in the size based on how much money you have. So let's assume that we go after an association that we think is a niche. I can control that marketing budget. So here's what I might do. And I've done both of these when I didn't have any money. And I do them now if I'm trying to test out a new market or a new topic if I'm wanting to. So I can control my cost. I can control my market. Now, here's what I have, and I have done every piece of this. I can control my cost. I can control my market. I can create a letter. I can create a brochure, and I can do it based on a stamp if I need to do it cheap. And I can do every piece of that with an association or with a mailing list by just trimming down the association or trimming down the mailing list with that. Here's how I would do something like this. So let me just show you what I've even done. So let's say I've got a new product or a new seminar. So the cheapest ways to start marketing. So let's say I'm doing contract work over here for Career Track, because this is what I did. And so I've got a new seminar that I've created. Now I've got 45 of them now, but when I created my first one or my second one, I was doing keynotes. I was also doing training. So I didn't put it on a jump drive like I'm telling you here, but I put it on a CD, because that's what you had back then. So I created I put it on video tape, because that's what you did back then. But I created a video of a keynote, 20 minutes. I created a video of two 20-minute training pieces of those 2 training sessions. And of course, I had the big box back then. And so I put all that into a big box. So I had the 3 videos, I had a brochure of the flyer, and I had a letter. And so that all went in a box. And I sent it off to the company, talking about the training that we had with an outline of the 2 training sessions. And I'd send it off, introducing myself to the company. And that's what would go off. Today, it's going to be cheaper, because you can put all of that onto a jump drive and you send it off. And so, and it's going to be cheaper because now you can print all the colorful brochure on your color printer. That's not going to cost you anything to print, because you got a color printer now, and you can send all that off, and you can send it off for almost pennies. And so that's what I would do right now. And you can contain every piece of that to where it's not going to cost you very much. And then topics. Sorry. What kind of topics? The more you're like everyone else, the more it comes down to price. So you have to decide what topics you really want to mess with. I did motivation because I was young and dynamic. And so in those early years, I was listed as one of the top motivational speakers. I was listed as one of the top 100 motivational speakers. And so you'd go and do all the rah-rah stuff. But that wasn't fun for me. It was a party atmosphere, and that was not one of the things I really enjoyed. And it was a lot of the drinking stuff. And everybody, each his own, everybody kind of likes those. But I know I can remember talking to Wanda about it and telling her I didn't enjoy it. It was a one-shot deal. You'd go in and do the rah-rah, and I liked the long-term relationship, but you made the most money doing that. And I remember her saying, okay, well, let's redesign it. And so that was part of that reinvention. And so I decided I wanted to do more training than the keynoting. Because you made more money keynoting. And so we kind of emphasized more training. And so I stopped doing some of the keynoting, and so I still do some, but did more training. And the training turned out to be just really the main niche for me, because I liked the long-term commitments with people and connecting with the customer long-term to do the training. But so we redesigned the company to do more of the training than we did the keynoting, because it seemed to fit me. You might do more of the keynoting because you love the rah-rah, and it's more motivational and a little more short-term and that kind of thing. What topics are you an expert on and could sell as an expert? You have the background and the expertise for that. What's your special twist or your special position that really would look good in trying to make that? How could you take your general topics maybe that you have and make it real specific in any of those areas? And then the other thing to look at, and you have to look at through critical eyes here, is would you buy your topic or listen to your presentation? If you were sitting out in the audience and looking at you, would you look at you through and listen to you based on your experience and what you bring to the table? And so would you be impressed with you if you were doing all those type of things? And some of it is, it's built over time. And so, and this is the last slide here, and then I'll let you ask anything you want, and I'll be as transparent as I possibly can. In training, people want, I'm going to use a term called edutainment. You've got to be able to entertain and educate at the same time. You can be brilliant, but if you bore everybody to death and don't have a little bit of fun with them, they're going to hate your guts and they're never going to bring you back. So you've got to be able to have some fun with them, but you can't just entertain and not teach them anything. So you've got to be able to keep that balance. And people want to have fun and learn something, and if you want to be hired again. So you've got to be able to have some fun. You got to be approachable. And at the same time, you've got to be able to, you've got to be able to teach, have fun, and you've got to be able to share something with them too. And at the same time, you got to get them through the material. So you've got that whole balance with everything that you're trying to do from all sides. So that's all from start to finish that I listed here to kind of get you up and going with all these pieces. Now, let me stop right here, and any question you have, you can text it, you can ask it. I'll be transparent with you to answer anything I possibly can from any direction that I possibly can on starting the company, give you some direction, whatever you'd like to ask.